All right. Can anybody recall for me the equation of a unit circle? Do any non-math people know? Just anything, any guess at all? Okay, let's go.
X squared plus y squared equals 1.
So x squared plus y squared equals 1, or we can rewrite it as y equals the square root of 1 minus x squared, just by moving everything over. And that, well, I could be plus or minus. So then that is just going to create the circle on the x and y axis. And what makes it a unit circle is that the distance from the origin to any point on the circle is always 1. That's where this, this 1, that's kind of the magnitude, I guess you could think of it. So, remember from your geometry classes some basic properties of how to calculate what a sine of an angle is, or a cosine. Do people remember the rules for that?
We know sine is opposite side over.
So, okay, so if we have an angle sine of an angle theta, you said is what?
So the length of the opposite side
So, opposite
over the
over SOHCAHTOA, exactly. I knew I had something to say. Alright. So if sine is, sine is the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. What comes next? So cosine. So what would cosine be?
Adjacent over hypotenuse.
Adjacent over hypotenuse, exactly. So cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. And then TOA is
Opposite over adjacent.
opposite over adjacent. Good. So that's tangent of theta, which is opposite over adjacent. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to do a little trick with this unit circle so you can kind of, see it better. And if we think of, before we move on, if we think of any of these points, we can rewrite them as x comma y, because we're going over x and then up y. Okay? So if I take this, as you can see, it forms a triangle with an angle theta. So I'll redraw this triangle right here so you can see it better, where this is the point xy. And this is that angle theta that we just showed. Using the things that we know from before, can anybody tell me what the length of this side is? Tangent of theta? Why do you think it's tangent of theta? So this one right here. If we're trying to calculate this side. So what's the opposite of so the opposite is this, right?
Yeah.
And the hypotenuse would be there.
Oh,
So we're trying to calculate. So think of this as, this is the hypotenuse as we said it. And what is that hypotenuse? 1, right? So if I'm trying to calculate this one, is this the adjacent side or is this the opposite side? Adjacent side. So is there anything, how would we calculate the length of this? Cosine. Okay? So this side right here is the cosine of the angle. Now, what can someone tell me about this length as related to the unit circle? How did we rewrite, this right here for me to get this point?
Is it x?
It's x, the length is x. So we can rewrite this as cosine of theta equals x. And the reason it would be, would be x is that the length is x, And we can also think of it as cosine of this angle is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So we know that this length is x from what we wrote before, so this is going to be x adjacent over hypotenuse. And that's just going to be equal to x, obviously. What would be this length y that we have right here? How can we rewrite that? Using a trig function.
Sine.
Sine. Why would it be sine? What was that?
Opposite over hypotenuse.
Opposite, which is y, over hypotenuse, this is 1, which equals y. So, we can take this,
You're about done.
about that. So we can take these and then rewrite them. Yeah, obviously a sine of theta equals y and cosine of theta equals x. And if we redo our unit circle with the y-axis and x-axis, we can take any point right there, and this is just going to be rewritten as the cosine of theta, sine of theta, with that being the angle.
Great.
That's it.